Admiral Hyun-woo Park stood on the bridge of the starship Seoul's Pride, watching the massive alien vessel approach through the view screen. 3 days ago, humanity had made first contact with an alien species. 3 days ago, everything had changed forever. The alien ship was beautiful in a way that made Hyun-woo feel small. It moved through space like a silver fish swimming through dark water. No sharp edges or rough surfaces marked its hull. Instead, it curved and flowed like something that had grown rather than been built. The humans had never seen anything like it. Admiral, they're requesting permission to dock, said Lieutenant So-min Lee from her station. She had been chosen as the lead scientist for this historic moment. Her hands shook slightly as she worked at her console. Everyone on the bridge felt the weight of this meeting. Grant their request, Hyun-woo said. His voice stayed calm, but his heart raced. As the commanding officer of the Seoul Federation's Deep Space Fleet, he had trained for many situations. Meeting aliens was not one of them. The alien ship moved closer to the human space station orbiting New Jeju, one of humanity's outer colonies. The station had been built to support mining operations and trade routes. Now it would be remembered as the place where two species first met in peace. Ambassador Mi Young Choi waited in the docking bay with a full diplomatic team. She had spent her entire career preparing for meetings that might never happen. Now she faced the most important conversation in human history. She checked her translator device one more time and took a deep breath. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The first alien to step through was tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow from within. Its features were elegant, almost beautiful by human standards. When it spoke, the words came through the translator clearly. Greetings, people of Seoul. I am High Ambassador Veltar of the Talaxi Empire. We come in peace and friendship. Mi-young stepped forward and bowed slightly. Welcome, High Ambassador. I am Mi-young Choi, representing the Seoul Federation and all humanity. We are honored by your visit. The meeting that followed seemed like a dream. The Talaxi spoke of their ancient empire that spanned many star systems. They shared images of beautiful worlds and advanced cities. They offered to trade technology and knowledge. They spoke of bringing humanity into a larger galactic community. Dr. So-min Lee spent hours talking with the Talaxi scientists about their biology and culture. They seemed fascinated by human diversity and asked many questions about different human worlds. They wanted to know about population numbers, settlement patterns, and the locations of every human colony. For peaceful trade purposes, Veltar explained when Mi-young asked about the detailed questions. We must understand your people to serve you better. The Talaxi gifts amazed the humans. Medical devices that could heal wounds in minutes, energy sources that were clean and endless, food production systems that could feed entire cities. Everything. Humanity needed to expand faster and farther across the stars. Captain Do-hyun Kim watched all of this from his small scout ship at the edge of the system. As one of the Federation's best reconnaissance pilots, he had been ordered to patrol the outer regions during the alien visit. His job was to watch for any other ships that might be hiding. What he found made his blood turn cold. Hidden behind a small moon, Do-hyun discovered a massive scanning array. The device was clearly alien technology, but it was not like the beautiful ship the Talaxi had arrived in. This was dark and angular, designed for stealth rather than diplomacy. The scanner was pointed directly at New Jeju Colony. As Do-hyun watched from a safe distance, he saw data streams flowing from the device toward empty space. The Talaxi were not just visiting. They were studying every detail of human settlement. Do-hyun tried to get closer, but his approach triggered automated defenses. Bright beams of energy lanced past his ship, forcing him to retreat. As he pulled back, he saw something that made his heart stop. More scanning devices, dozens of them, positioned throughout the outer system. Each one aimed at human settlements. Each one gathering information and sending it somewhere else. Command, this is Scout 7. Do-hyun transmitted on a secure channel. I have a problem out here, a big problem. Admiral Hyun-woo received the message during a formal dinner with the Talaxi delegation. He excused himself and moved to a private communication room to hear Do-hyun's full report. What he heard changed everything. "They've been watching us for months, maybe years," Do-hyun said through the encrypted link. "These scanning arrays are old and well-established. This first contact meeting is not their first look at humanity." Hyun-woo felt ice form in his stomach. If the Talaxi had been observing human colonies for so long, why reveal themselves now? What had changed? "Admiral," Do-hyun continued, "I managed to intercept some of their transmissions. The translation software can only handle part of it, but there are references to something called harvest preparation and specimen quality assessment." The formal dinner continued in the main hall. Ambassador Mi-young Choi smiled and made polite conversation with Veltar and the other Talaxi representatives. They spoke of trade agreements and cultural exchanges. They talked about a bright future for both species. But Hyun-woo could no longer focus on their beautiful words. He kept thinking about scanning devices and harvest preparations. He thought about how interested the Talaxi seemed in human population numbers and colony locations. Dr. So-min Lee noticed the change in the Admiral's behavior when he returned to the dinner. She saw the tension in his shoulders and the way his eyes kept moving to the communication device on his belt. Something had gone wrong. The next morning brought more disturbing news. Do-hyun had attempted to investigate a restricted area that the Talaxi claimed was a cultural research station. What he found there would haunt his dreams forever. Holding cells, examination tables, equipment designed to study living creatures in ways that were not gentle or kind. And in the center of it all, a massive database filled with detailed information about every sentient species the Talaxi had ever encountered. The files told a story of horror spanning thousands of years. Species after species had been contacted by the Talaxi Empire. Each first meeting had been peaceful and friendly. Each had ended the same way. "They call it the Great Harvest," Do-hyun reported to Admiral Hyun-woo in a private meeting. His voice shook as he shared what he had discovered. "They don't just kill their victims, they use them. The neural compounds in sentient brains extend Talaxi lifespans. They've built their entire civilization on consuming other intelligent species." Hyun-woo stared at the evidence Do-hyun had gathered. Images of empty worlds that had once held thriving civilizations. Records of species that no longer existed anywhere in the galaxy. Files that detailed exactly how many humans lived on each colony world. The Talaxi had not come to make friends. They had come to count their next meal. That evening, as the diplomatic meetings continued, Hyun-woo made a decision that would save his species. He sent a coded message to Earth using an old military encryption that the Talaxi would not be able to break. The message was simple. "Package compromised. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 7. The response came back within hours. "Understood. Protocol 7 is now active. Begin the withdrawal. Sol Command sends regards." Hyun-woo had no idea what Protocol 7 meant, but he trusted Earth Command. If they had a plan for this situation, he would follow their orders. Diao. Next day, High Ambassador Veltar dropped all pretense of friendship. The beautiful mask slipped away to reveal something cold and hungry underneath. "Your species will serve the Talaxi Empire," Veltar announced during what was supposed to be a final diplomatic ceremony. "You should feel honored. Few species provide neural compounds of such high quality. Your sacrifice will extend thousands of Talaxi lives. Around New Jeju Colony, space filled with alien ships. Not the beautiful vessels from the first meeting, but dark, angular warships designed for conquest and capture. The true Talaxi fleet had arrived, but as the aliens prepared to begin their harvest, something unexpected happened. Human ships throughout. The system began to disappear, not destroyed, not captured, simply gone. Admiral Hyun-woo stood on his bridge as evacuation protocols activated around him. "All ships implement withdrawal pattern 7, he ordered. "The long preparation begins now." The last thing Veltar heard from the humans was a transmission from Admiral Hyun-woo. "High Ambassador, you have made a serious mistake. Earth has been waiting for someone like you for a very long time." Then the human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Talaxi to stare at empty space and wonder what they had just unleashed. Emperor Drakkar the Eternal sat on his throne aboard the flagship Death's Glory, watching the reports flow in from his harvest fleets. What he saw made no sense. 11 human colony worlds had been targeted for simultaneous attack. 11 fleets had arrived to find empty settlements and bare infrastructure. Not a single human remained to be captured. "Explain this," Drakkar commanded his fleet admiral, a scarred veteran named Kethmore who had conducted 17 successful harvests across the galaxy. "My Emperor, the humans appear to have evacuated their populations before our arrival," Kethmore said carefully. "However, this should have been impossible. Our intelligence networks detected no mass movement of ships or people." Drakkar's eyes narrowed. In 3,000 years of life sustained by the neural compounds of countless species, he had never seen prey escape so completely. Find them. They cannot hide an entire species. The Talaxi pursuit fleets spread out across human space following energy signatures and hyperspace trails. What they found challenged everything they thought they knew about their newest prey. Captain Do-hyun Kim piloted his scout ship through an asteroid field in the Kepler system, one of several human pilots, leading Talaxi forces on a dangerous chase. Behind him, 3 alien warships tried to match his movements through the floating rocks. The Talaxi ships were faster and more powerful, but Do-hyun knew something they did not. This asteroid field contained a hidden human supply depot, built decades ago and disguised to look like natural rock formations. As the alien ships closed in, Do-hyun sent a coded signal. The asteroids around the Talaxi vessels suddenly exploded outward, revealing automated defense platforms that had been waiting in silence for years. The attack lasted 30 seconds. When it ended, the Talaxi warships were debris floating among real asteroids. Do-hyun's ship slipped away through a hidden passage that led to the next system. Similar scenes played out across human space. Every time the Talaxi thought they had cornered human ships, they found themselves walking into carefully prepared traps. Supply depots disguised as space junk, weapon platforms hidden inside dead planets, jump gates concealed within stellar phenomena. Admiral Hyunwoo Park commanded the withdrawal from a mobile command ship deep in unexplored space. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets and Talaxi pursuit groups across dozens of star systems. "Sir, the enemy is committing more ships to the hunt," reported Lieutenant So-min Lee, who now served as his intelligence officer. "They're pulling vessels from other sectors of their empire." "Good," Hyunwoo said. "The further they stretch themselves, the weaker they become. How are our supply lines holding?" "Better than expected. The hidden depot network is functioning, exactly as planned. Some of these installations have been waiting for activation for over 50 years. Hyunwoo nodded. When he was a young officer, he had wondered why Earth Command insisted on building supply bases in systems that might never be settled. Now he understood. Earth had been preparing for this day for much longer than anyone realized. General Jae-sung Yoon stood in the war room deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, coordinating humanity's greatest deception. The chamber had been carved from solid rock decades ago, hidden from any possible detection. Around him, hundreds of officers worked, at terminals that connected to secret human installations throughout the galaxy. "General, Phase 1 of the withdrawal is complete," reported Colonel Min-seok Yoon, his aide and nephew. "All civilian populations have been evacuated to secure facilities. The Talaxi have found nothing but empty buildings." "And our fleet positions?" "Exactly. Where we want them. The aliens think they're pursuing scattered survivors. They don't realize they're being led into a funnel." Jae-sung studied the tactical display showing Talaxi fleet movements. The aliens were good hunters, but they had grown predictable through centuries of easy victories. They followed obvious trails and committed forces to obvious targets. They had no experience with prey that fought back intelligently. Engineer Haiwan Jung worked frantically in a hidden shipyard built inside a hollow asteroid. Around her, human technicians made final adjustments to weapons systems that the Talaxi had never encountered. The ships looked similar to standard human vessels from the outside, but their internal systems had been completely redesigned. Jump, drives that could make longer leaps with less energy. Shields that could adapt to different types of weapons fire. hulls made from materials that bent sensor beams in unexpected directions. "How much longer?" asked Captain Yoonji Nam, the test pilot for the new ship designs. "The first squadron will be ready in 6 hours," Haewon replied. "But remember, these are prototypes. We're still learning how the new systems interact." "Better than anything the Talaxi have seen," Yoonji said confidently. "I've been flying against their pursuit ships for weeks. They're fast, but they're not creative. These new ships will give them nightmares." The Talaxi Empire had never encountered organized resistance during a harvest operation. Their previous victims had either fought desperately and died quickly, or surrendered and died slowly. Humans did neither. Instead, human fleets appeared at the edge of Talaxi sensor range, fired a few shots, and vanished into hyperspace before return fire could reach them. They struck supply convoys, communications relays, and isolated patrol ships. They never stayed to fight a real battle, but their constant attacks wore down alien morale. Commander Woo Jin Lee specialized in making the Talaxi doubt themselves. His psychological warfare teams had studied alien communications and behavior patterns, learning how to exploit their cultural weaknesses. The Talaxi prided themselves on their ancient wisdom and superior intellect. They saw themselves as the galaxy's chosen species, destined to rule over lesser creatures. Woo Jin used their own arrogance against them. Human broadcasts began appearing on Talaxi communication networks, somehow bypassing their security systems. The messages showed detailed analysis of alien technology, pointing out flaws and design weaknesses. They demonstrated human innovations that surpassed Talaxi engineering in every category. "Your ships are slow," one broadcast announced. "Your weapons are inefficient, your tactics are predictable. You call yourselves an advanced civilization, but you're parasites feeding on the creativity of others." The messages were designed to make the aliens angry and careless. Angry enemies made mistakes. Careless enemies walked into traps. Dr. Young Ho Park worked in a research facility that did not officially exist, hidden in the outer system of a star that appeared empty on all charts. His team had been studying captured Talaxi technology for months, learning how their systems functioned, and how they could be defeated. "The aliens have a fundamental weakness," he explained to a gathering of human military leaders via secure hologram. "They rely too heavily on automated systems. Their ships, weapons, and communications networks all use artificial intelligence to make decisions." "What does that mean for us?" asked Admiral Hyun-woo from his mobile command post. "It means we can hack them. Human computer systems were designed to be resistant to outside interference because we've always been paranoid about security. Talaxi systems were designed to be efficient and reliable. They never expected anyone to try breaking in." Young Ho's team had developed computer viruses specifically designed to attack alien networks. Once inside Talaxi systems, the viruses could do anything from scrambling navigation data to causing weapons to malfunction at critical moments. Captain Siri Kim tested the new hacking tools during a raid on a Talaxi supply base. Her stealth ship approached the alien facility without being detected, thanks to technology that made human vessels nearly invisible to alien sensors. As her team prepared to attack the base, Siri activated Young Ho's computer virus. The Talaxi defense systems suddenly began firing on their own ships, thinking they were human attackers. In the confusion, Siri's forces destroyed the supply depot and escaped before the aliens realized what had happened. Similar raids took place across Talaxi-controlled space. Human forces struck deep into alien territory, hitting targets that should have been impossible to reach. Each attack demonstrated capabilities that the Talaxi had not expected humans to possess. Emperor Drakkar grew increasingly frustrated as reports of human activities reached his throne room. His prey was not only escaping but fighting back with surprising effectiveness. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his advisors. "These creatures were using primitive chemical rockets less than 500 years ago. Where did they acquire such advanced technology?" Admiral Kethmore had no good answers. "My Emperor, we may have underestimated this species. Their ships use technology we don't fully understand. Their tactics suggest military experience we didn't expect. Are you suggesting that these Humans are more dangerous than our intelligence indicated? Kethamore chose his words carefully. I'm suggesting that we need to commit more resources to this harvest than originally planned. Drakhar's anger filled the throne room like a cold wind. No species had ever required more than a standard harvest fleet. No species had ever escaped. The initial sweep operations, no species had ever dared to strike back at Talaxi forces. Double the pursuit fleets, he commanded. Triple them if necessary. I want every human found and captured. This embarrassment ends now. The Talaxi Armada stretched across 3 star systems, the largest military force the Empire had ever assembled. Emperor Drakhar commanded the hunt personally from his flagship, determined to end the human problem once and for all. For 6 months, his forces had chased the scattered human fleets deeper into unexplored space. Every victory felt hollow, every success temporary. The humans always slipped away at the last moment, always had another hiding place, always struck back when least expected. Admiral Kethamore approached the Emperor's throne with his daily report. The numbers never seemed to improve. My Emperor, we destroyed another human supply depot yesterday. However, our own supply lines are becoming strained. We're operating far from our home territories. Are you questioning my judgment? Drakhar's voice carried centuries of absolute authority. Never, my Emperor. I only suggest that these humans are different from our previous prey. They seem to have been preparing for us. Commander Wu Jinli smiled as he monitored Talaxi, communications from his hidden base. The aliens were beginning to doubt themselves exactly as he had hoped. His psychological warfare campaign was working better than expected. The broadcasts to Talaxi ships had grown more sophisticated over the months. Human hackers had learned to break into alien personal communication systems, sending messages directly to individual crew members. The messages were simple but effective. Your Emperor is leading you to die for his pride, one message read. How many of your friends have died chasing ghosts? How many ships have been lost to human traps? When will you realize you're not hunters anymore? The effects were subtle but measurable. Talaxi response times had slowed. Their formations had become more cautious. Some ships had even turned back without authorization, their crews too demoralized to continue the hunt. Captain Siri Kim's stealth squadron operated deep behind enemy lines, striking targets that should have been impossible to reach. Her ships used technology that made them nearly invisible to Talaxi sensors, allowing them to move freely through alien-controlled space. Today's target was a major Talaxi communication relay that coordinated fleet movements across dozens of systems. Sari's team approached the heavily defended station without triggering any alarms. Remember, we're not just destroying equipment, Sari told her pilots. We're sending a message. We can reach anywhere, anytime. The attack lasted 12 minutes. When it ended, the communication station was the expanding cloud of debris, and 3 Talaxi patrol fleets had lost contact with their commanders. Sari's squadron vanished into hyperspace before enemy reinforcements could arrive. Dr. Young-Ho Park worked around the clock in his hidden research facility, developing new weapons and defenses based on captured Talaxi technology. What he discovered about the alien empire disturbed him greatly. They've been doing this for thousands of years, he explained to a gathering of human commanders via secure hologram. The Talaxi haven't developed any significant new technology in centuries. They just steal innovations from the species they conquer. Admiral Hyunwoo leaned forward. What does that mean for our situation? It means they're not as advanced as they pretend to be. Most of their equipment is based on ideas stolen from their victims. They've become dependent on conquest, rather than innovation. That makes them predictable. Young-Ho's teams had reverse-engineered several alien systems, learning how to turn Talaxi technology against its creators. Computer viruses that could take control of alien ships, jammers that could blind their sensors, weapons that could penetrate, their shields using frequencies the aliens thought were impossible to generate. The psychological effect on the Talaxi was devastating. Their technology, which had seemed invincible for millennia, was being consistently outmatched by creatures they considered primitive. Captain Do-Hyun Kim, led a squadron of human fighters through an asteroid field where a Talaxi patrol had taken shelter. The aliens thought the floating rocks would provide cover from human sensors. They were wrong. Human ships moved through the asteroid field like they had been born there, using gravitational effects and hidden passages that the Talaxi couldn't detect. The alien patrol found itself surrounded by enemies that seemed to appear from solid rock. "This is Captain Kim of the Sol Federation," Do-hyun broadcast to the trapped aliens. "You are outmatched and surrounded. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war." The Talaxi commander's response was filled with arrogance and threats. Do-hyun sighed and gave the attack order. The battle was over in minutes, but Do-hyun took no pleasure in the victory. Each engagement taught him more about the Talaxi mindset, and what he learned worried him. These aliens saw other species as resources to be consumed, not people to be respected. They would never stop hunting humanity unless they were forced to stop. Engineer Haewon Jung supervised the final tests of humanity's new battle fleet in a hidden shipyard built inside a dead planet. The ships looked nothing like the vessels the Talaxi had been chasing. These were purpose-built war machines incorporating every lesson learned during months of conflict. "The power output is 30% higher than projected," reported her chief assistant. "The new engines are more efficient than anything in our database." "What about the weapon systems?" "Fully functional. The adaptive targeting system can adjust to any type of shield configuration. The Talaxi won't be able to adapt their defenses fast enough." Haewon nodded with satisfaction. These ships represented 3 centuries of human engineering, refined by 6 months of combat experience. When they were revealed, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift permanently. Captain Yoonji-nam commanded the Deep Space Monitoring Network that had been tracking alien movements for decades. Her hidden observation posts stretched across hundreds of light years, watching everything the Talaxi did. "Admiral, we're seeing significant changes in alien behavior," she reported to Hyun-woo during their daily briefing. "Their fleets are spreading out more, taking fewer risks. Some ships are even withdrawing from advanced positions." "Fear," Hyun-woo said simply. "They're starting to understand that they're not dealing with helpless prey. There's something else. Long-range sensors show massive fleet movements in Talaxi home territories. They're pulling ships from other sectors to reinforce the hunt for us." This was exactly what Earth Command had hoped for. The longer the Talaxi committed to hunting humans, the weaker their overall position became. Other species in the galaxy might notice the opportunity and act on it. General Jae Sung-yoon received regular reports from intelligence networks throughout the galaxy. What he learned confirmed humanity's strategic assumptions. "The Talaxi Empire is showing cracks," he told the Earth Defense Council during a secure meeting. "Species they conquered centuries ago are beginning to resist. Several client worlds have stopped paying tribute. Their economy is struggling to support this massive military operation." "How much longer can we maintain the retreat?" asked President Ji-hoon Lim. "As long as necessary. Our supply lines are secure, our fleets are growing stronger, and the enemy is making mistakes. Every day they chase us is a day they're not consolidating their empire." But Jae-sung knew that the retreat phase would have to end eventually. Earth's plans required the Talaxi to follow humanity to a specific location, and that location was still several weeks away. Emperor Drakkar grew more desperate as his advisors brought him reports of problems throughout his empire. Client species were rebelling. Supply worlds were falling behind in their quotas. Military commanders were questioning the wisdom of continuing the human hunt. "My emperor," Admiral Kethamore said carefully, "perhaps we should consider a strategic withdrawal. We could return to secure our territories and deal with the humans later." Drakkar's rage filled the throne room. "Withdraw? From prey? Never. I will not be the first emperor to admit defeat to a species of primitives. But my emperor, the cost is irrelevant. We have hunted across the galaxy for 3,000 years. No species has ever escaped the great harvest. These humans will not be the first." Kethmore bowed and said nothing more, but privately he wondered if the emperor's pride was leading the empire to destruction. Commander Woo Jin Lee intensified his psychological warfare campaign as the Talaxi grew more desperate. His teams had learned to exploit every weakness in alien psychology, turning their own cultural values against them. "You call yourselves the chosen species," one broadcast announced, "but you can't even catch a handful of humans. Your ancestors conquered the galaxy with strength and intelligence. You chase shadows with desperation and fear." The messages were carefully crafted to make the aliens angry and reckless. Angry enemies made poor decisions. Reckless enemies walked into traps. Dr. Young-Ho Park made a discovery that changed everything. While analyzing captured Talaxi databases, his team found records of the Empire's early conquests. What they discovered would give humanity a decisive advantage. "They're not invincible," he announced to the human command staff. "The early Talaxi were actually less advanced than many of the species they conquered. They won through surprise, overwhelming numbers, and psychological warfare." "What changed?" asked Admiral Hyunwoo. "Success made them lazy. They stopped innovating because they didn't need to." The Sol system looked empty and primitive on Talaxi sensors. One small yellow star, a few rocky planets, some gas giants, and the scattered debris of an asteroid belt. Emperor Drakhar smiled as his massive armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of human space. "So this is where the humans come from," he said, studying the tactical display. "A single star system with one inhabited world. How disappointing." Admiral Kethmore felt less confident as he analyzed the sensor data. "My Emperor, our scans show the third planet has a large population, but defensive readings are minimal. It seems too easy." "Easy?" Drakhar laughed. "We have chased these creatures across half the galaxy. They have nowhere left to run. This ends today." The Talaxi fleet spread out in a standard harvest formation, preparing to sweep through the system and capture every human ship in settlement. 4,000 alien vessels moved toward Earth like a dark tide of metal and death. They had no idea that they were being watched. Admiral In-Ho Choi sat in a command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Himalayan mountains, surrounded by displays showing every alien ship in the Sol system. Around him, hundreds of human officers tracked the enemy's movements with calm precision. "Admiral, the Talaxi have taken standard positions," reported Colonel Min Seok Yoon. "They're following harvest protocol exactly as our simulations predicted." "Excellent. How long before they reach the activation perimeter?" 14 minutes. "Sir?" In-Ho nodded and opened a communication channel to President Ji-Hoon Lim in the secure government bunker. "Mr. President, the enemy has arrived. Request permission to activate Sol Defense Network." "Permission granted, Admiral. Show them what Earth has been building." The Talaxi advance continued unopposed for 13 minutes. Their sensors detected a few small defensive platforms around Earth and some orbital installations that looked like standard industrial facilities. Nothing that could threaten a fleet of their size. Emperor Drakhar was already planning his victory celebration when the Sol system suddenly came alive. The asteroid belt exploded into motion as thousands of objects that had looked like space rocks revealed themselves to be camouflaged weapon platforms. Each one had been waiting in silence for decades, powered down and invisible until this moment. Jupiter's moons opened like flowers, their surfaces sliding apart to reveal massive construction facilities and shipyards. Saturn's rings turned out to be artificial, composed of millions of automated defense satellites that had been disguised as ice and rock, and Earth itself began to change. Dr. Su Young Han watched from her control station as the Terra Defense Project activated for the first time. 3 centuries of preparation and construction were about to be tested in actual combat. "Initiating planetary defense grid," she announced. "Magnetic field enhancers are online. Mass drivers are charging. Luna base is ready for launch operations." Around the Earth, structures that had been hidden beneath mountains and oceans rose to the surface. The planet's magnetic field suddenly intensified, creating electromagnetic pulses that scrambled Talaxi sensor systems across the entire inner system. The moon split open along artificial seams, revealing the largest military installation ever constructed. Hangars big enough to build starships, manufacturing facilities that had been working in secret for generations, weapon systems that could target objects in other star systems. "Admiral, Kethmore stared at his displays in shock as the human defenses revealed themselves. My Emperor, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. These readings are off our scales. Impossible, Drakkar said, but his voice had lost its confidence. A single world cannot have such defenses. The first human ships began launching from hidden bases throughout the Sol system. These were not the improvised vessels the Talaxi had been chasing for months. These were purpose-built warships, designed specifically to fight alien invaders. Admiral In-Ho Choi commanded a fleet that had been waiting for this moment since before he was born. Every ship incorporated lessons learned from centuries of observing alien technology. Every weapon system had been tested against simulated Talaxi defenses. All units, this is Sol Command. In-Ho broadcast to the human fleet. Execute battle, Plan Omega. Show these invaders why Earth has been preparing. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Talaxi found themselves fighting an enemy that understood their technology better than they did, had prepared countermeasures for their every weapon, and had spent 300 years planning for this exact encounter. Human ships moved through the Talaxi formation like sharks through a school of fish. Their weapons adapted to alien shield frequencies in real time. Their armor deflected energy beams that should have cut through any material. Their tactics exploited every weakness the Talaxi had developed through millennia of easy victories. Captain Do-hyun Kim led a squadron of Earth's finest pilots against the alien flagship's escort group. His new ship felt like an extension of his own body, responding to his thoughts faster than any Talaxi vessel could react. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth, he told his pilots. We're fighting for every species these monsters have consumed, every world they've harvested, every civilization they've destroyed. The human fighters tore through the alien escorts like they were made of paper. Weapons that had served the Talaxi Empire for thousands of years suddenly seemed crude and ineffective against human technology. Colonel Min Seok-yoon commanded the orbital defense platforms that had been hidden throughout Earth's solar system. Each platform was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining firepower, mobility, and intelligence systems that the Talaxi could not match. Platform 7, target the command ship in grid reference Alpha 4, he ordered. Platform 12, disable the flagship's escort group. All platforms, remember to capture as many aliens alive as possible. We'll need them for questioning. The defense platforms moved with deadly precision, their weapons reaching across millions of kilometers to strike targets with perfect accuracy. Talaxi ships that had seemed invincible suddenly found themselves crippled and helpless. Engineer Haewon Jung watched from the Luna Base Control Center as her ship designs proved themselves in combat. The vessels she had spent decades perfecting were outperforming her wildest expectations. Hull integrity holding at 98%, reported one ship captain. Enemy weapons are having minimal effect. Requesting permission to close with the flagship. Granted, Haewon said. All ships, remember that our goal is capture, not destruction. We need their Emperor alive. Emperor Drakkar watched his invincible armada crumble around him. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds were being systematically disabled by human weapons. Strategies that had worked for millennia were useless against enemies who seemed to anticipate every move. How is this possible? He demanded. These creatures were primitives. They had no advanced technology. Admiral Kethmore struggled to make sense of the tactical data. My Emperor, their technology appears to be specifically designed to counter our systems. It's as if they've been studying us for centuries. That's exactly what we've been doing, said a new voice. The main display flickered and showed Admiral Hyun-woo Park, now aboard one of Earth's most advanced warships. Behind him, human officers worked at control stations that looked far more sophisticated than anything in the Talaxi flagship. Emperor Drakkar, I am Admiral Park of the Sol Defense Fleet. You are surrounded and outmatched. Surrender now and your crew will be treated according to the laws of war. Drakkar's rage filled the communication channel. Surrender? To pray? Never. I am the eternal emperor of the galaxy's greatest empire. Your empire ends today, Hyun-woo said calmly. Earth has been preparing for species like yours for over 300 years. We've watched you hunt across the galaxy, studied your methods, learned your weaknesses. Everything you've done has taught us how to defeat you. The truth was even more devastating than Hyunwoo revealed. Earth had not just been preparing defenses. Human intelligence networks had been operating throughout Talaxi space for decades, gathering information about the Empire's structure, technology, and strategic weaknesses. Dr. Young-Ho Park's research teams had analyzed every aspect of Talaxi civilization, from their military tactics to their economic systems. They had identified the critical points where pressure could bring down the entire empire. Captain Siri Kim's stealth squadrons had already begun striking those critical points. While the battle raged around Earth, human forces were attacking key Talaxi installations throughout their home territories. Communication networks, supply bases, and command centers were being systematically destroyed. The Talaxi Empire was not just losing a battle, it was being dismantled from within by enemies it had never suspected existed. Commander Wu Jin Lee's final psychological warfare broadcast went out on every communication channel in Talaxi space. The message was simple but devastating. People of the Talaxi Empire, your emperor has led you to destruction. Your fleets are defeated. Your technology is obsolete. Your reign of terror is over. The species you thought were prey have become your hunters. The galaxy will never again bow to parasites who feed on others' creativity. President Ji-hoon Lim stood before the largest communication array ever built, preparing to address not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. The Battle of Sol had ended 3 days ago, but its effects were still spreading across space like ripples on a cosmic pond. Behind him, holographic displays showed the current state of the former Talaxi Empire. Rebellion on 47 worlds, 3 client species declaring independence, supply lines collapsing as subject worlds refused to send tribute. An empire that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was falling apart in real time. Citizens of the galaxy, Ji-hoon began, his words carried by hijacked communication networks to every inhabited system within 1,000 light years. I am Ji-hoon Lim, President of the United Earth Government. Today humanity speaks to the stars for the first time. The message that followed would be remembered as the moment everything changed. For over 3 centuries, Earth has watched in secret as predator species hunted across the galaxy. We have seen civilizations destroyed, worlds harvested, entire species consumed by creatures like the Talaxi Empire. We remained hidden not from ignorance but from preparation. In the secure holding facility beneath Luna Base, former Emperor Drakkar listened to the human president's words with growing horror. The scope of humanity's deception was becoming clear. They had not just defended themselves, they had been planning this moment for longer than most civilizations had existed. The Talaxi Empire told you they were your superiors, Ji-hoon continued. They claimed divine right to hunt and consume other species. They built their civilization on the suffering of others. Today, that age of predation ends forever. Dr. Kyung-soo Kim worked frantically in her laboratory, analyzing data from captured Talaxi ships and installations. What she found confirmed humanity's worst fears about the state of the galaxy. Mr. President, she reported during a secure briefing, our analysis shows that the Talaxi were just one of several predator empires currently active. There are at least 6 other species engaged in systematic hunting of sentient beings. What's our capacity to deal with multiple threats? Better than expected. The technology we developed to fight the Talaxi can be adapted to counter other predator species. More importantly, many of their victims are still alive and capable of fighting back if given the chance. This was the foundation of humanity's grand strategy. Earth would not replace the Talaxi Empire with another empire. Instead, they would create something the galaxy had never seen before. A true alliance of free species. Admiral Hae-jin Park commanded the first Liberation Fleet, a mixed force of human warships and converted Talaxi vessels crewed by former slaves of the Empire. Their destination was Kepler 442b, a world that had been harvested by the aliens 50 years ago. Remember, we're not conquerors, she told her mixed crew of humans and liberated aliens. We're liberators. Our job is to free these people and give them the tools to defend themselves. The mission was a complete success. The Talaxi occupation force on Kepler 442b surrendered without a fight when they saw human warships in orbit. The local population, kept in slavery for decades, wept when they realized their nightmare was over. But liberation was only the first step. The real work came afterward. Engineer Haiwan Young led teams of human and alien specialists in dismantling the Talaxi harvesting facilities on Kepler 442b. The equipment was either destroyed or converted to serve the liberated population's needs. The processing plants can be converted to food production facilities, she explained to the grateful locals. The power systems can support your cities. The transportation network can connect your communities. More importantly, the humans shared their defensive technologies. Within months, Kepler 442b would have the weapons and shields needed to protect itself from future predators. Similar operations took place across dozens of worlds. Human fleets appeared wherever Talaxi forces had established themselves, offering liberation to the oppressed and justice to the oppressors. Commander Wu Jin Li specialized in turning former enemy assets into allied resources. His psychological profiles of Talaxi personnel had identified thousands of aliens who could be reformed and integrated into the new galactic order. Not all of them are monsters, he explained to skeptical human commanders. Many were born into the Empire's culture and never questioned it. With proper education and counseling, they can become productive members of galactic society. The rehabilitation programs were controversial but effective. Former Talaxi soldiers became teachers, helping other species understand alien technology. Alien scientists contributed their knowledge to human research projects. Even some former nobles found useful roles in the new government, but not everyone could be saved. Dr. Young-Ho Park studied Emperor Drakkar during regular interviews in the secure holding facility. The former ruler of the galaxy remained unrepentant, clinging to beliefs that no longer matched reality. "You think you've won," Drakkar said during one session. "But there are others like me out there, other empires that will come for you, other predators that will hunt humanity." "We're counting on it," Young-Ho replied. "Every predator species in the galaxy is welcome to try. Earth has been preparing for all of them." This was not empty boasting. Human intelligence networks, originally designed to monitor the Talaxi, had already identified and begun studying other galactic threats. The Vorthak swarm, which consumed entire ecosystems. The Nexus Collective, which enslaved other species through technological implants. The Crimson Fleet, pirates who raided peaceful worlds for resources and slaves. Each predator species would face the same fate as the Talaxi. Humanity had learned that preparation and patience were the keys to victory against any enemy. Captain Sari Kim commanded deep space reconnaissance missions that pushed further into unexplored areas of the galaxy. Her stealth ships gathered intelligence on potential threats while making contact with isolated civilizations that needed protection. "Contact established with the Andromedan Republic," she reported after a successful first contact mission. "They've been fighting the Vorthak swarm for decades. They're requesting military assistance." "Approved," Admiral Hyojin Park replied. "Dispatch a liberation fleet immediately. It's time to teach the swarm what happened to the Talaxi." The Galactic Defense Coalition took shape gradually, built on principles that were revolutionary for their time. Membership was voluntary. Each species retained its sovereignty. Military cooperation was based on mutual defense rather than conquest. President Ji-Hoon Lim presided over the coalition's founding ceremony on New Terra, a world specifically designed to serve as neutral ground for interspecies cooperation. Representatives from 47 different civilizations signed the charter that would reshape galactic politics forever. "Today we establish something new in galactic history," Ji-Hoon said as he signed humanity's name to the treaty. "Not an empire built on conquest, but an alliance built on cooperation. Not a hierarchy based on strength, but a partnership based on mutual respect." The ceremony was broadcast throughout known space, carried by communication networks that humans had seized from the Talaxi and other predator species. Billions of beings watched as the Age of Empires officially ended. But the real test came when the first external threat attempted to challenge the new order. The Nexus Collective had been observing the collapse of the Talaxi Empire with interest. Their cybernetic technology allowed them to convert conquered populations into willing slaves, and they saw the chaos following the Talaxi defeat as an opportunity for expansion. They made the same mistake the Talaxi had made. Admiral In-Ho Choi commanded the coalition fleet that met the Nexus invasion force at the edge of human space. The battle demonstrated how much the galaxy had changed in just 2 years. Ships from a dozen different species fought alongside human warships, their weapons and tactics coordinated through technologies that the old empires had never imagined. Former enemies worked together against a common threat. Species that had been prey became hunters. The Nexus fleet was not just defeated, it was completely annihilated. This is Admiral Choi of the Galactic Defense Coalition. He broadcast on all frequencies as the last Nexus ship exploded. Let this be a message to any species that thinks conquest and slavery are acceptable. The age of predators is over. Any attempt to harm peaceful civilizations will be met with overwhelming force. The message was heard throughout the galaxy. Other predator species began reconsidering their expansion plans. Some attempted to negotiate. Others tried to hide. A few made the fatal mistake of testing humanity's resolve. None of them succeeded. General Jae Sung-yoon oversaw the final phase of humanity's grand strategy from his command center beneath the Himalayas. The same facility that had coordinated Earth's defense now managed liberation operations across the galaxy. "Sir, the Crimson Fleet has been neutralized," reported Colonel Min Seok-yoon. "The Vorthak Swarm is in full retreat. The Nexus Collective has formally requested peace negotiations. What about smaller threats? Being handled by coalition forces. We've trained and equipped over 200 different species. Most can handle local problems without our direct involvement." This had always been the plan. Humanity would not police the galaxy forever.